My name is Ohchan Kwon, and this is my third year working at HKUST. I'm originally from South Korea, and then before coming here, I got my degrees from MIT and Harvard Business School, and I'm interested in studying how technologies, and especially digital technologies, are affecting businesses and our society. And I'm excited about doing research and also teaching some of the related stuff to both undergraduate and MBA levels here at HKUST. So before coming to US, I worked for a company for 4 years. So I used to work at SK Telecom, one of the largest telecom companies in South Korea, as R&D manager. So I learned a ton, but at the same time, that experience gave me a lot of interesting questions that I want to pursue. So for instance, how organizations, firms, or even countries should take advantage of different technologies. So that got me to decide to apply for different graduate schools in the US. And luckily, I got admitted to MIT. So at MIT, I pursued this master's program called Technology and Policy Program. So there, I'm exposed to a series of research where they are applying scientific methods to think about how firms should innovate and how countries should innovate. And I was really passionate about pursuing that research idea because I'm really excited that there's a way that we can use some data and scientific method to provide answers to the question that I'm really curious about while I was working. So I decided to pursue more to become a researcher about this area. And then so after that, I pursued my doctoral program at Harvard Business School. So that's how I'm exposed to this area in terms of research. For MBA students, I'm teaching 2 courses. And the first course is Technology Entrepreneurship. And the second course is it's a brand new course that I'm going to teach next semester. It's called AI and the Future of Business. And I think that the 2 courses are somewhat complementary because when I'm thinking about MBA, teaching MBA students, I want to provide 3 things. So the first thing is theories. So some ideas that they can use to generate new ideas. And the second area that I want to cover is related to some tools. So idea generation is great, but you need to evaluate, right? Because you always will be surrounded by many different options, and you need to make choices by comparing like pros and cons, benefit and cost, right? Long-term versus short-term. So you need to be able to make choices. And the third thing is related to context, I think. And so we are teaching a lot of fundamentals, like business insight that you can apply in many different areas. So there are those common ideas, common viewpoint, if you are willing to say that. But I think from time to time, there are some contexts that are becoming more popular and students are more excited. So for instance, like digital technologies are the one that a lot of people are interested in these days. Artificial intelligence, AI, is another area that people are interested in learning more about these days. And I think people usually do not think that there's a gap between these new technologies and other business fundamentals. But in many cases, if you are creative and if you are flexible, then you can always apply some of the lessons that you are learning and the fundamental kind of perspective and tools in new context as well, because that's why we are teaching those tools. So in my 2 courses, I basically want students to first learn these business fundamentals, but at the same time, my bigger goal is to show them how to apply these fundamental business tools in new context that's seemingly uncertain, seemingly confusing, so that they can think more clearly and they can create more insight. And I think that's the kind of complementary roles that I'm playing here, because I believe that I'm surrounded by many other great teachers who has been providing great lessons in terms of business fundamentals. But my kind of unique role here is to show them how to apply these business fundamentals in new contexts, such as digital technologies or AI. I think there are two reasons, and one reason is more broad. So these technologies are what scholars are calling general purpose technologies. So right now, especially for AI, we have some sense and some theoretical reasons to believe that these technologies will have broad implications across many different functions and many different industries. But because it's a new technologies, we don't know, right? But because this is, we believe that this technology will be applied in many different sectors and many different functions, I think there's a growing interest in these new technologies. And I think the second reason is more Hong Kong specific, and which is that for Hong Kong, and in this area, probably one of the most important industries is finance. And my understanding is that finance is the industry that a lot of MBA graduates wants to join after graduation. So my graduate education is from Boston, and I think it's fair to say that Boston is where science-based innovation is happening. So like life science research is world-class life science research is conducted there, and then like companies like Moderna are created based on the leading research there. Maybe in Hong Kong, I think we are a little bit lagging behind in terms of doing this kind of science-based businesses. So when you are saying that this is new technologies and you can use these technologies to create new chemical, new drugs, probably a lot of MBA students here will not be very interested, because this is not the industry that they want to join immediately after graduation. But I think these general purpose technologies, such as digital technologies or AI, are very different, because as I mentioned, this is general. It's going to be broadly applicable. And an area that this is going to be applied for sure is finance industry, because finance is also an industry where they are collecting a lot of data, and access to the data is very important to provide AI powered services or digital services. So in a sense, finance is the area where we are seeing the biggest and broad impact of these new technologies. And I think here, a lot of MBA students used to not think a lot about the technology changes, but because these new technologies are going to reshape the finance industries, I think people are very excited about and very curious about how to think about that and what they can do to prepare their careers in the future. And I think that's why, compared to other technologies, these new technologies are drawing a lot of attention from people here at HKUST. I'm a big fan of cases. I believe that introducing new cases will give students an opportunity to think from their own perspective. At the same time, in my early sessions, I am trying to provide them with some big framework so that they can guide their thinking a little bit. So my typical course design is a combination of theory and then theory and I think cases. So in one class, I'm introducing some theories, or I'm providing some reviews about some ideas that they have learned from other courses. But I'm showing, using some examples, how these ideas, either new ideas, new theories, or old ideas, can be applicable to this specific context. And in the next class, I'm going to, we are doing like case discussions where I'm showing them how to use the theories to analyze the cases, but at the same time, I'm giving students some freedom to participate based on their own idea. So it's a combination of theory and case, I would say. Well, I'm a researcher, so this is an area that I'm passionate about learning more. So for instance, like one research that I'm doing is how using AI affect people who are getting evaluated. Is that changing their behaviors? And I think this is just the research question that makes me excited, because the reason that I'm passionate about research is that so from my work experience, I have several questions that I personally experienced by myself, and this idea that I can use data and some scientific method to provide answer to the questions that I used to be curious about. I know that my friends were curious about. It's just fascinating opportunity. And I think that the classroom is another opportunity where I can introduce some of the ideas that I'm thinking about with enthusiasm to my students. So I think, and also it's an opportunity to learn from their perspective as well. Because, wow, this is great. MBA classroom is great kind of environment to learn from very diverse perspective. So I think I just enjoy that opportunity a lot. There are two things that I want to be talking to prospective MBAs. So the first thing is, I assume that many of you who are considering MBA programs in Hong Kong, including our schools, are interested in finance, right? So I think traditionally, they have been focusing on taking a lot of finance and accounting courses. And I believe that they still need to do that. But at the same time, I want them to understand that this is an area that's experiencing a lot of changes. And I'm expecting that we are going to see a lot of other fundamental changes that's going to reshape this industry. So, and probably for many of them, this 2-year MBA program is the best opportunity to prepare themselves to compete so that they can be competitive maybe 10 years after graduation, right? So I think there are two things. Obviously, MBA is the MBA program is the program that will help you to get a job, but I want them to have a longer perspective, so that they can think about what they should do, so that they can remain competitive 10 years after graduation. And I can be biased, but I believe that an ability to think about this new technological environment and learning how to apply their business insight in this new context it's right now very important, but it's going to be more important going forward. So I want the students to think about that angle a little bit. So getting a job is important, but also you need to have some broader longer perspective about improving their capabilities. And yeah, I think that's the message that I want to provide.